And it goes a little something like.
How's it going, Humber Hawks? It's your boy Joseph,
And Aman.
and welcome to the first ever Digitally Wired podcast. We hope you guys truly enjoyed this podcast, as it took us a couple of months to prepare this podcast for you guys.
So for our first guest ever, we have Dan Rogers, who is, why don't you tell me about a little bit about Dan, Joseph?
Well, Aman, you already know, Dan is the man when it comes to fitness. He basically created his own fitness empire, as he basically helps people consulting towards their fitness, as preparing like their preferred meal plans, preferred workouts to achieve their own personal goals, whether it's mentally or physically wise about their body.
All right, and yeah, I mean, Dan's a great guest to have on this podcast. We've had multiple people, speak with him. We've had different projects with him, especially JT, who's part of DBSA also. And if you didn't know, this podcast is completely possible because of the DBSA, and the DBSA is the Digital Business Student Association. So that's where we come from, right, Joseph?
Of course, we are second year digital business management students here at Humber College, and we are here to broadcast you this wonderful broadcasting with multiple episodes.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's get Dan on the call, shall we?
Let's get him on the call.
All right.
Enjoy.
All right. Let's get into it. So, Dan, nice to meet you, first of all. It's been some time in the making, and we'd like to just get to know you. So who is Dan Rogers?
I'm a coach by trade. Thanks for having me, first of all. So part of this is to hopefully have a positive influence on some of the audience and nudge people in the right direction. And I do that on a daily basis. So that's what I do. I'm a coach. I coach a variety of different clients and groups. My background is that I've owned my own, own my own gym, a successful operation in Mississauga. I've played hockey at a really high level, and I'm currently now in the corporate setting. So I'm able to help people in the corporate setting with all the learnings I've had from my own experiences and with owning and operating a gym. So those are some of the things, I guess, that would pertain to you and I, but I've got lots of layers, I would say. So those are some of the things to start with.
Fair enough. So where do you start? As in, like, when you graduated, for example, what did you graduate from?
Yeah, so I graduated from Lakehead University. I somehow managed to get honors in political science, and with no intentions of getting into politics, just I was interested in those courses, and that's what my academic advisor advised me to do. So I did that, and that was great. I was a student athlete playing for Lakehead University hockey team on a scholarship. So I was very active and being in training for that. So in the off season, I would train and I would get in shape to be able to make the lineup and be able to participate in the games. And then through that, I found CrossFit, and that was in about 2008. And I did my own version of that specific to how I would get ready for hockey. But I just fell in love with like being in a group, training, community, culture. And I got into coaching with that after university because I liked being in that situation, and I liked continuing to be on a team when I was no longer on a team with hockey. So I got into coaching, help people, find out about themselves and get active and stay active and be part of community events and all the other good things that go along with the gym. And that's evolved over time with my involvement in gyms and coaching, but that's essentially where it started after university.
Wow.
That sounds terrific, Dan. Now, as I understand, as a coach, you know how you meet various different types of people with different sorts of strengths and weaknesses when they come to the gym. So how are you able to sort of balance or find the person's full potential versus ensuring that they're also like safe and they avoid injuries?
Well, there's an intake process that you should be taking as a leader within that situation. So there's a consult. So we just have an open conversation, about 15, 20 minutes. And there's a template with which over the years I've established that I would have as questions for them pertaining to, what's worked in the past, what their goals are, what they're currently doing, what equipment they may have access to, their injury history, all those different things. And so you absorb that information, and then you would formulate if you can help or not. And sometimes I can't. And a lot of times I can, or sometimes I don't want to be honest, because they might need some time slots that are not at the time that work for my schedule, and or they're maybe not going to be an ideal client for me. But there's an intake process, and we lean on that intake process to navigate moving forwards with multiple check-ins along the way to make sure things are gravitating towards the goals we established at the start of that relationship.
Fair, fair. So you work as a coach, you coach people, and it's very difficult, I think, to coach. What do you think is the biggest, I think, hurdle that you've come across ever in your coaching experience?
I've coached 70-year-old clients, 9-year-old kids, 300 people online through a stretch, blind people, blind clients, like a ton of different, like EMS students who are trying to get ready to pass their test, people who are new to gym, so they have the apprehensions that exist of going into a group setting, so they're very like paralyzed by anxiety and fear of being in front of other people doing activity, and you name it. So there's a bunch of situations that were not one more challenging than the other or difficult, but they're situations where you treat the person with respect and compassion and try to make them feel comfortable. And there's different ways of doing that that are on the spot, kind of pragmatic, I would say, coaching styles. But you start with having them in a comfortable environment, and then maybe it's joking around, maybe it's uber serious on technique. You just don't know what that person is maybe needing until you start to coach them, right? So you do a little bit beforehand, but a little bit in session stuff of reading the situation, reading the person, and make them feel comfortable, treat them with respect, have compassion. That stuff kind of, if you do that, you're able to get over any sort of hurdles or tough challenges that arise as a coach.
Fair enough.
That sounds amazing. So, do you have any particular advice for people who wish to pursue a career similar to yours? As we know, many people around our age are saying go towards like personal training, health and wellness. And do you have any sort of like inspirational or like, let's say, advice to give them as you wish you learned when you were young before you started?
Yeah, I have lots, to be honest. I've coached and developed lots of coaches who are now gym owners. And through our interactions, not just solely because of my mentorship, but through me being there for them when they started out, they're now successful at their own operations, and I've had an influence on that. So part of it is you got to care, and you don't, it's got to trump everything. And if you have that, then you're always going to do what's best for your group and your clients. You have to truly care. I would say that's reflected in probably not like all the things you do for free, because then you'll be broke. But you can do you volunteer? Do you do charity work? Are you aware of the bigger purpose? So have that be at the forefront. That's one of the first questions I ask any sort of client or a continued nudge coaches towards is participate in volunteer stuff, care about people. Next is there's a lot of things, but being prepared. So if you're doing a group class and you're a new coach, you better have a lesson plan. You don't have to be perfectly attached to that lesson plan, but you should have something written down, rehearsed, so that when you go in front of people, you've got a thing that you can lean on for if you get scrambled, if things go off, go haywire, if things are moving in the right direction, if your timing's off, if you maybe miss the key point on a movement that you want to help a person with. You just have to have a plan going into each session. So you got to care about people. You got to have a plan. And there's much more to that. I think, young coaches, there's two different kind of coaches, I'd say, but they're not two different kinds. There's lots of different kinds, but some coaches get caught in this endless cycle of continuing to take credentials, courses, certification, workshop, and they get caught in just being buried in that, but they don't actually get coaching hours. And they're not actually coaching human beings. It's not to say like just go coach people, but get some of those credentials and coaching certificates and courses and continue your education. I'm doing it to this day. I'm 38. I've been doing it for over 15 years. I'm still doing it. But you got to go coach people to be able to be a coach.
Do you think like your years of experience, you've conditioned yourself to be like mentally to be a coach, so like in your everyday life, right? You possibly like you've conditioned yourself over a certain period of time. Do you think that helps you as a coach?
Conditioning myself to be a coach.
Yeah, like, I mean, your experience throughout the years, do you think at the end of the day, does it help you become a better coach, teach more people?
I mean, I have to be wary of not coaching everybody that I interact with. So I have friends of mine that they don't want to be coached by Dan, and they're good with what they're doing right now. And there's others that I will influence through osmosis or through being a good role model with how I carry myself. So they'll think, you know what, he looks pretty happy and he's fit and he's got a good balance. I want to be more like him, and maybe I'm going to change some stuff about inspiring people. So that's a method of coaching too, and I'm aware of that. And then, but my experiences are such that I still look up to others who have more experience than I do, and I just want to be able to, with the flock that I have and the reach that I have, be able to positively influence them either through direct coaching or through some mentorship, because I do lots of that where it's kind of an in between of in person or not having a client. It's kind of in between, just like, hey, what are you currently doing? Yeah, you're on the right path. Carry on. You don't need me to help. And then sometimes people are like, hey, I need you in person or as a client to help you get on the right path, and then fly birdie fly. So yeah, there's kind of situations that come up that are different, I would say, as time goes on. But it's all based on my experience and my my coaching lens, I guess. I mean, you need mentors, man. Like, you need to have people who are better at what you do around you that you're interacting with on a daily basis. You have to have check-ins with those people to make sure that you're on the right track for your craft. And that could be plumbing or running a podcast or anything else. You need to dive into those conversations and know that you're not at where you could be, and take some feedback and move forward to those mentors. So I have had that, and people who are young coaches need that. And they think, oh, I'm going to just do it myself. It's like, no, you're not. Like, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. Get a person that you trust, have there be some check-ins, keep accountable to some things, be open to feedback, and you're going to grow. And so I continue to do that to hopefully be my best version as every year goes on, and a better version of myself. But kids that are getting into coaching get caught in this, like, if I look at a coach coming to me and they just throw all their credentials at me and they have like minimal actual hours coaching, I'm like, well, you have no experience, so why would I hire you? I'm not going to give you all the experience. There's a balance. So you have to find that balance. You don't need to put in 50 hours a week of coaching hours. You just have to have some person whose well-being and journey that you're responsible for, or that you're a co-pilot with in some capacity, to learn if your coaching credentials actually apply, or if you've got holes in your game, and you need to actually coach to see if the thing that you learned in that course credentials certification workshop actually applies to what you're doing. And if it doesn't, then you'd maybe fill it in with things that do apply to the people you're commonly running into as your client. But if you're just going to read from a book and regurgitate stuff from a course, and you're going to throw credentials out, it's just not going to be the thing you need to focus on. There's a balance.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, yeah, thank you so much for joining us on this first podcast, Dan. It's been a pleasure to have you. Hopefully we get you back for a second episode. It's been amazing talking to you, just understanding the world of coaching. I didn't know it was, so deep.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think we've learned a lot, especially the people who are watching this. I bet they've learned a lot. So we'll call you in for a second episode for sure. Thanks so much for
awesome.
being here.
Thank you for being a
Thank
great
you for having me,
inspiration,
guys.
Dan.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Good job with the podcast, and look forward to any invite you have in the future for me. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dan. Keep it up.
Bye.
Well, that was a very knowledgeable broadcast. What say you on, man?
It was really different. I didn't know there was so much to the fitness industry. I mean, coaching and everything. There's so much more to it. RX Recourse sounds to be a delight, though.
Exactly. He seems like he really knows what to do, because he has multiple credentials as well as the experience. So those two things combined together, I feel like that's what made a really great coach.
And the tips were great too overall.
100%.
But I mean, I feel like we got to do an episode 2 with the guy. He sounds, there's so much more that we can, take from him.
Indeed. I feel like there's a lot of personal trainers out there who are inspired to get into the fitness industry. I hope this episode truly helped you guys to become more knowledgeable and more aware of like what to expect within the fitness industry. That way you stand out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so moving on, the DBSA, weren't we working on that in-person event that's rumored to come out pretty soon, right?
Ooh, that's classified information. I don't know if we could say in the first episode. Next episode, we'll give you guys a sneak peek though.
Definitely. So that way you guys stay in tune for episode 2. But thank you for listening in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Of course, of course. We hope you guys truly enjoyed it, and we'll see you in episode 2. Take care.
Take care. Thank you for listening to Digitally Wired. That's a wrap.